Hi guys and welcome to a new edition of Jan's Opening Clinic. This is season 26, episode 2. And before we get started, I want to apologize for the long wait. It's not really my plan to have these very long breaks between episodes. My excuse is that there have been a lot of live tournaments. I've been doing a lot of live commentary. I also got child number 2 in the meantime. Everybody's good, everybody's healthy. So I'm not sure if it will be worth it getting a new kit every time I need a new excuse for delay on opening clinics. But I will certainly make one up when we get to Jan's Opening Clinic 26, episode 3 in a couple months. Anyway, this is the show where I do my best to answer Chess24 premium users' opening questions. If you're not a Chess24 premium user yet, you can become one on chess24.com/premium. And now let's jump into the action. Let's start with AIS thesis. He is saying, his thesis is, Hi Jan. In my latest attempts to revive the bishop e7 queen's gambit declined, I came across the following problem. Is there any good way? I'm not sure if I should read from that screen or that screen because I can see the question on both, so sorry for the creepy head movements. Is there any good way to make d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop e7, cd, ed, bishop f4, knight f6, e3 castles, bishop d3, c5, knight g2, or knight f3, and c6 castle work for black? Would you go for c4 or cd4, and how bad is the resulting position? The commonly played alternatives dc5 and dc5, 8 dc5 and 9 dc5 allow black to equalize, but if white keeps the tension in the center, I'm afraid black might land in a bad position. Thanks in advance. And thank you for your great work. Love the e4, e5 repertoire. Thanks a lot, AIS Thesis. Let's find a chessboard. Oh, I'm a little far ahead here because I was already checking this out. So AIS Thesis. He is trying to make the queen's gambit declined work with bishop to e7. And after cd, ed, bishop f4, knight to f6, pawn to e3. He's investigating the line short castles for black. I always considered bishop f5 to be a more critical move here. AIS. I haven't revisited this recently, but I thought after queen b3, knight c6, everything is sort of alright for black. And after knight g2, the positions get so kind of strange, but I didn't think things were too bad. So if you are not happy with the c5 revivals, you might want to give bishop f5 in other chats. Disclaimer, I haven't checked this recently. So your line is castles, bishop d3, c5. And as you mentioned, after dc5, black usually equalizes. I agree. Something like this, castles, d4. I do not think there's very much there. Therefore, white should try to keep the tension. And in my opinion, the best way to do so is knight e2. If white goes knight f3, I don't know, even after knight c6, this knight is sometimes misplaced, but black can also play the c4, bishop c2, and bishop to g4. Using the knight is on f3, this would make not that much sense with a knight on e2, some f3, e4. And after h3, go bishop h5. I believe this is, at least it's a tense position, and it could very well be playable for black. So the problem, as far as I can tell, is knight ge2, which is also what most strong players do in this situation. I think Ding Liren had a recent game. Knight c6, short castles. And to answer part of your question, I think you should go for c4 in these positions. After cd4, it might not look like much, but even after ed4, I think black suffers, but knight d4 is even cleaner. Knight d4, ed. Although we have these mutual, I don't know what that structure is called in English. These mutual isolated pawns. White's position is better here. He's just much better placed to deal with it. Bishop comes to e5, pawn to h3, rook e1, queen b3. And black will very soon be defending an unpleasant position. It's not lost or anything, but it won't be great fun. So I would recommend against this. And if you end up in this position, I would play c4, where I think white is somewhat better. I guess bishop c2 is the best bet, although engines also do argue for bishop to b1. The bishop c2 looks more natural. Black, I guess, should play a6 in order to be able to go b5. Now white has some options. Ding played bishop e5 here. Knight g4, bishop g3, which look very logical. Then after knight f6 back, this is the Ding game. I think he went a4. Computers also quite like b3, or Lila quite likes b3 in these type of positions. b5, b takes c, b takes c, just stabilizing the situation. And now something like rook b1. Now that black has a protected passed pawn, the white pieces are very nicely placed to deal with this. And I do think that white has the better chances here. You could also, instead of this immediate bishop e5, make a case for b3, b5, takes, and rook b1, or bishop e5 directly. So, to answer your question, I think it's an interesting line, especially if you're looking to mix it a little bit, pushing this pawn to c5. But yeah, I kind of understand that it hasn't been that popular. I believe the position to investigate further, if you were so inclined, would be this, and now either a6, as we just talked about, or bishop to e6. And b3 apparently is not that great, because you can take in rook c8, but white should play some move like, what was it, bishop e5, intending knight f4, and it looks like white still keeps a bit of pressure. So I'm not sure. There's a reason that these lines aren't that popular. Of course, black does have alternatives along the way. I mentioned one, this bishop to f5. I think these systems with c6 are also never fully out of fashion. Then queen c2, knight f6, or e3, bishop d6, or bishop f5. So there's always stuff happening there. But yeah, they do not seem to be the weapon of choice for black players currently. Still, hope I could help a little. Let's get to the next question. VER Twitch, or VerTwitch, he's saying, "Hello Jan, thanks for always being there for us. I feel even worse now after my initial apology. How should a student approach learning an opening repertoire? I ask because I'm starting the Hammer repertoire series here on Chess24, and it is above 10 hours average duration. So I wonder how to tame a beast of such magnitude. Many people have wondered exactly that about Jan Ludwig Hammer. There are many opening suggestions in the library series. Maybe you can spare some lines on how it is best to succeed at such an enterprise. Thanks again, Jan, and to all the Chess24 team." All right, so this is more of a general question. How to learn an opening. Maybe also if to learn an opening. Because what I'm trying to say is there are two ways to go about this. You could say, let's say, I'm not sure which Hammer series you're watching, but let's say you're watching the one for white. I want a complete repertoire with white with one e4. And then try to digest that whole thing. And I think what you're getting at is that not everything might stick if you just watch a 10-hour video series. You won't have it all committed to memory, which is probably true. So what I used to do more in the old ambitious days of mine is when I had a source like that, like a book or a video series, and I would decide, okay, I want to build a foundation for a whole repertoire, that I would create my own files. You can do that on Chess24, in Chessable, and obviously there are many other places where you can build PGN files with your notes. So I would take my book or my video series as the basis and enter it all in myself. Partly because when I started doing this, I was already, I guess, a grandmaster or a highly qualified player because I want to add my own information and engine lines and notes and thoughts, those types of things. And partly also because I think for me it would commit better to memory if I just typed it. I'm sure there's many different types of learners. But yeah, that's how I was doing it in the rare cases when I was trying to build a complete repertoire. I didn't always, go with a full video series or book maybe because of my advanced opening geekness, I more or less knew the areas as well. So I would start creating a file of, this is potentially a problem, and enter the first moves, then maybe put a game in there and take it from there, and then hopefully start growing these files based on whatever input, the video series we're talking about or whatever book I had at that time. And so that's in an ideal world when you have a lot of time to build your opening repertoire. And the advantage is also that these files, of course, can change because opening theory changes, chess engines change, model games change. There might be new video series on E4 coming out, and so on and so forth. You can maintain those. So that's the one approach. The other one, which I think is more realistic, at least for me these days, is that I play, let's say, blitz games on the internet, or even a Bundesliga game. In blitz games, it's more like, my opponent played this, I can't recall what to do, and it annoys me. Let me look it up real quick, let me check whatever we have in video series and what is recommended there. Or sometimes I'll switch on an engine and see what the engine has to say about that. Sometimes I'll search a database and see what other people have done there, but more a sort of reactive repertoire building, like, I still don't know what to do against the triangle Slav. Let me see what Sopiko has in her series, or what the latest games are in over-the-board chess or correspondence chess or whatnot. So what I'm saying here is, if you're trying to use the hammer repertoire, then just play a bunch of, let's say, E4 games or E4, E5 games on the internet, which currently is probably more realistic than over the board, and then look up where it went wrong, or even where you or your opponent deviated from these recommendations. And like that, over time, I believe the whole thing will also sink in. And the lines that you never get in blitz games, maybe they weren't that relevant for your level of competition. So that, I think, is the approach I'm using more nowadays. Of course, in an ideal world, you do both. You first create your own personal repertoire out of that video series, and then you recheck your notes or whatever you built on it, your move trainer thing, and depending on your current needs. So yeah, I hope that made sense. The usual disclaimers that everyone's different, everyone learns differently. For some people it's enough to just watch a video or read the ebook or take the Chessable course. For others, it's more important to, write stuff down or to play it out themselves on a board, on an analysis board. Even on a real physical chessboard, some people do that. So whatever works for you, but those would be my first instincts on taming such a beast, as you say. What do we have next? Niels Rowe is saying, "Hi Jan, thanks for all your hard work and enjoyable content, and especially valuable in these crazy times. Thank you, thank you. I'm using the lockdown to attempt building a proper repertoire with one E4 for the first time. Oh, I heard the Hammer series is great. And I'm struggling to find a good system against the 1d6 and 1g6 because of so many move order tricks. Are there? In general, if allowed, I'd like to play a samish King's Indian type of position. Should you play 1d4 then, however? And would like to allow black all opportunities possible to transpose back to this. After e.g. e4, d6, d4, knight f6, I would have to play 3f3 to stick to the setup. My question is if black can get a good Benoni exploiting this by playing e.g., e.g. 3 c5, d5, g6, c4, bishop g7, knight c3, castles, bishop e3, e6. Seems like black is already maybe better. Does white show their cards too early by playing 3f3? Thank you once again. Stay healthy, Niels Roh. I don't know. So e4, d6, d4, knight f6. The question is f3 good or bad? And is c5 a problem? Yeah. So let's put it on the board. Pawn to f3, I would say, is probably the third best move. I guess knight c3 has to be the best move. It's so natural, developing a knight towards the center and keeping options open. With the f-pawn and so on and so forth. And after g6, picking a system, be it bishop e3 and knight f3, which I like, or so Austrian attack f4, which I also like. There are quite some options here. But of course, you have to deal with e5, the fierce Philidor, and some other options. So after f3, yeah, I guess it's the third best move. I'm not sure if bishop d3 is better than f3. To bishop d3, e5, c3, d5 is considered an equalizer. I'm not quite sure how clean these things are. I haven't checked for a while. Takes knight f3, for example. Anyway, back to f3. Yeah, what can black do? After e5 you go d5, or I guess de5 is also a small advantage. After g6 you do this, and you're back to sameish. But your worry is that you might get move ordered after c5. Eh? First of all, I think white can take on c5 if we want to move order back. Then dc5 just looks bad. Queen d8, king d8, bishop c4. This can't be good. So black probably plays queen a5. Now knight c3, queen c5. Let's move like queen e2, queen d3. I guess queen e2. To go for bishop e3. Could be a pleasant, somewhat bizarre version of a Sicilian. No? a6, bishop e3, queen c7, g4. This kind of stuff looks like a good Sicilian. After knight c6, we have to be more careful because now bishop e3 could be met by knight d4, queen somewhere, knight c2. You don't want that, so I guess you should go here. This is obviously computer lines, but yeah. Knight b5 looked kind of promising for white, at least if you want to avoid move order trickery. But d5 can't be too bad, no? Like in the line you gave, d5, g6, oh, this looks fine. c4, bishop g7. I have a bit of a soft spot, but I'm not sure if it's good. But I have a bit of a liking for knight e2 castles, knight ec3 here. Putting this knight here, and then after e6, I don't know, bishop e2, ed, cd. Try to bring this horsey to c4 in the future. I haven't checked this for a while. I'm sure black does have recipes against this, but it's one way to use this move order to white's advantage. And in the line you gave after knight c3 castles, bishop e3 just seems wrong to me. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I understand it's probably coming from the Sämisch, where in this position after castles one plays bishop e3. This is the main line here. But here after c5 you wouldn't go d5 here. Usually people play knight e2, only go knight c6, d5, which is a somewhat different line. Or dc5, but I think that's out of fashion. So bishop e3 would kind of allow yourself to be move ordered. Therefore, if you have this position, it makes more sense to delay bishop e3 and start with knight e2, e6, knight g3, which transposes to some old school Benoni line in most cases, which yeah, is complex play. Or to play bishop to g5, which also is better than bishop e3 for these structures, e6, queen d2. So those are my thoughts. Nothing particularly wrong with this. Once you, yeah, I would consider this, but mainly because it feels smart. I'm not sure if it's that good. And once here, yeah, don't play bishop e3, play knight e2. and look into this line. Objectively, after c5, I'm feeling dc5 might very well be the best move. Hope that helps. Let's get to more question. Do we have more questions? Danger Mouse. Oh, he used an S there instead of the... Oh no, he used a 5 instead of the S. That's confusing. Some people might mistake that for Danger More 5. Feed a Master. He's saying, "Hi Jan, thanks for doing another opening clinic. I usually play the semi-Slav with d5, c6, knight f6 move order. But I'm thinking of switching to e6, d5, c6 to avoid the exchange variation against lower rated opponents. Will I regret allowing the Marshall Gambit?" I guess that will depend on the outcome of the game, no? No, that's an eternal question for semi-Slav players, which move order you use to reach your precious position. There are 3 options. You can go d4, knight f6, c4, e6. After knight f3, d5, d5, knight c3, you play c6. You got the semi-Slav, but of course you allow the Catalan along the way, and you allow 3 knight c3, bishop b4, the Nimzo. Those are, yeah, the main ways white is to deviate if he does not want to go for the semi-Slav there. That's option 1. Option 2 is the one you mentioned. You go d5, c4, c6, and if knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, e6, we reach the same position. The 2 drawbacks are you allow knight f3, knight f6, e3, which is not exactly the same. If black goes e6, white is not committed to knight c3, so you can play b3 or bishop d3 here. Therefore, black usually plays bishop f5 or bishop g4, but it's of course another big complex. Or you allow the exchange Slav in its different forms. And then there's option number 3, the one you mentioned, d4, d5, c4, e6. And if knight c3, you go c6. Well, once again, after knight f3, knight f6, you would be back to the semi-Slav, or e3, knight f6. But you allow the Marshall Gambit as a bonus option. You also have to think about move order-wise. What do you want to do after knight f3? If after knight f6 you're comfortable dealing with the Catalan, or if you want to triangle it up here as well. When after c6, white has, once again, some options not connected to knight to c3. Like queen c2 is a move, I've played a ton here. e3 is also a move when, of course, black has ways to adjust to this as well, but those are serious systems that one has to be ready for. So long story short, I don't think there's a perfect answer. In my younger days as a semi-Slav player, I would alternate between these systems depending on opponent. Against lower rated, I would usually, or whatever, much lower rated, I would usually choose either this, because the Nimzo, it tends to be okay to play for a win. Unless it felt like they were very booked up in the Catalan, when sometimes, if I didn't have a particular idea what to do against the Catalan, I would not feel too excited about that. And then sometimes I would go for this. However, people that are booked up in the Catalan typically don't play the Marshall Gambit here. They would play knight f3, hoping for knight f6 and going back to the Catalan. So that's the price you pay for not going for the Slav move order. You have to deal with all these Catalans. As for the Marshall, I don't know what's called attack Gambit, I guess attack. It's a dangerous line, but it's not exactly winning for white either. I think the more you check, the scarier it maybe gets for black, but practically I don't think it's a big issue, and typically black players that specialize here will be better prepared than the white player when you go for this. Therefore, I don't think, especially if you want to use it situationally against lower rated players, I don't think this is the position to avoid. Of course, there's quite some theory to be learned here. Knight e2 is a move after which the main line is this weird knight a6, bishop f8. I can't even recall. You go here, yeah? Here, here, here. Stuff like this exists. Was it this? Or rook g8 also exists. I think I've talked about plenty in previous opening clinics. There's also this stuff. Or this stuff. And so on and so forth. But I don't think black is fighting for a lost cause in any of these things. Therefore, yeah, I believe the martial gambit shouldn't be too much of a turn off there, the martial attack. But you should always think about it situationally. If you're happy playing this here, dealing with e3, queen c2, knight b2, bishop g5, whatever there is. Or if you're happy allowing the Catalan. And if the answer to both of these is no, then maybe the Slav remains the best option. But this is typically the game that semi-Slav players play. Vishyana has been doing this all through the 3000s. Be aware of these three options and then, you know, mix it according to the next opponent. Hope that helped, Mr. Danger Mouse, yeah, it's pronounced. Choose me for banter. I thought you were more of a banter blitz guy, but apparently you're also into the openings, huh? He's saying, hi Jan, being a pre-member, I believe I'm entitled to an opening advantage with white. Yeah, I think they're still working on the new super premium where you also get an opening advantage with black. But I hear you. You can imagine my surprise when playing the Moscow variation. Is that what's called? e4, c5, knight f3, d6, bishop b5 check, bishop d7, bishop takes, queen takes, c4. Getting my Marozzi on, black played 5e5 and got my Marozzi off. Don't like it when they get your Marozzi off. Black just aims for one of those pre-move King's Indian defense attacks that you can see coming from a mile away. Do nothing about it. The structure is symmetric, and black can even claim that by playing his knight to e7 is better placed than its rival on f3 as it prepares a quick f5. Sure, I push b4 at some point, but it's getting mated with my rook on b1 so much better than when it's on a1. I think... No. Chess is broken. Please fix it. The good news is I can fix that line for you. I'm not sure if I can fix the chess. So let's fix the line. There was some high-level action in this somewhat recently, no? Maybe last year. I think Magnus tried it with black, and there was also some game. Karana, Anand. So c4, a5, this is what bothers you. For starters, of course, the pawn structure is symmetrical, but it should be noted that white has a better bishop. After white goes d3, this black bishop, be it on g7 or on d8, will have fewer things to do than the white bishop. Anyway, so you will always go knight c3, black will always go knight c6, and you go d3, you don't commit to anything yet, keeping your options open. And now it's up to black to show his hand. From what I read, the setup you're worried about is the one with g6, bishop g7, knight e7, castles, f5, and then getting checkmated. But if they go g6 here, you don't castle into it. That's why we waited with d3, you play h4. I think this is a great moment for good old h4. And there is no great way for black to deal with this. h6 leaves the typical light square weaknesses here. So knight d2, and we're ready to play g4, to go knight f1, knight e3. Not sure how bad. Magnus defended some similar things against MVL, but certainly not great fun for black. h5 at least always takes the sting out of a future f5, because now this square will just be too weak. Now you switch to play on the queen side, a3, tending to play b4 or rook b1, b4. White is just somewhat better. Bishop h6, knight d5. It's not great fun for black either. And ignoring it, going bishop g7, allowing h5. It's bad too. I think Vichy played knight f6, but he was suffering too. After knight to d5. Takes, and then pawn to h5. So h4 is a good move. Magnus, surely aware of this, played bishop e7, intending to go bishop d8, knight e7, then maybe get rid of that bishop one day, castles and f5. And here white should, yeah, I think once again not even commit to castles, but keep the options open. Play a3, after bishop d8. You can go b4, even without your rook on b1. Just go for it. Offer this pawn generously, stopping bishop a5, cb, knight takes b4, short castles, and white's initiative will be very much worth the pawn in this situation. You can check it a bit further from here, but I'm sure you believe me. If you don't, you can always go castles, rook b1, and take it nice and slow. But b4 looks correct to me here. So I hope that helps a little bit. As I'm saying this, I'm wondering a bit what to do about knight e7. First, you could still go h4, fighting against g6, but I guess you go a3, and after g6 once again. Bring the h-pawn. Now, yeah, should have thought about knight e7 earlier. I didn't, but it looks a bit clumsy. f4. I'd be happy with this line for white. It looks nice, but I do think it's important. This, I think it was Vichy against Karana, to play this h4 stuff and not, you know, just allow black his pre-moved attack that you worried about. Hope that helped. Mr. Choose Me for Banter. What else is going on? Taki. Taki is saying, "Hi Jan. Hi Taki. I am currently looking for an offbeat answer to the Ruy Lopez. I stumbled over the fianchetto variation, which starts with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, g6. Black seems to be pretty fine, in most lines. Only d4, ed, bishop g5 looks quite challenging. What's your opinion on the variation? Also, I recently found your videos with rocket beans on YouTube very amusing. Thank you, thank you. I like to amuse. As for the line, what is my opinion? I've looked at this because would be nice to have an alternative to the usual Spanishes here. And g6, yeah, it feels kind of sound. You want to go bishop g7, a7 castles. I'm not sure I agree that d4 is the only critical variation. c3. Apologies. c3 is certainly also a critical move. But since you're asking, let's look at d4 first. I kind of agree. Usually when you build a repertoire around this d4, around this g6, you're not that scared of this because computer says this stuff is kind of equal. ed, bishop g5, black should play bishop e7, bishop takes, and queen takes e7. Which wasn't that much, but I never was too thrilled about the black side of this either. White has two ways to play. Bishop c6, dc, queen d4 is what is commonly played. Knight to f6. And here most computers show near equality, like knight c3, bishop g4. I was still never too excited about this position because it feels a bit like some exchange Ruy Lopez, in which we don't have the two bishops. So not saying black is in trouble here or anything, but it's not a position I would be seeking out necessarily either. And maybe more challenging, white can also start with castles in this position. Obviously, queen e4, rook e1 is not great. Queen b4 you can do, but now you get some endgame that's slightly worse. And after knight to f6, white has bonus options in form of e5. So I kind of share your worries, even though I think engines and most people over the board are nowadays saying d4 is not really the most challenging way. White should play with c3 or with castles followed by c3. And then, of course, one often enters this rabbit hole. If I start with a6, bishop a4, and now g6, am I stopping d4? The truth is probably not. Here d4 might be a more serious move even than immediately. And then after the immediate g6 and after ed, just knight d4, trying to take. After b5, I believe there were some games recently, bishop b3, ed, knight d4, bishop b7, knight c6. I also wasn't sure if black equalizes fully. Here the best move is dc6. I saw some Stefanoa games. I thought, is this a mouse slip? But then I learned that it is the best move. But yeah, it's a problem with all these sidelines, and the reason why the main lines are the main lines. After knight f6, there is no such easy ways for white to a small edge, or after a6, bishop a4, knight f6. Therefore, yeah, I keep coming back to the main lines, and I usually then try to be creative a little later here with whatever, bishop c5 or b5, bishop c5, or none of these are really sidelines anymore. So, of course I understand the problem, but this 3g6, I sort of share your concerns, even though engines don't. Engines are kind of saying, sort of, kind of, that this is not so bad for black. Anyway, I hear you, and I've been at the same point and decided against g6. Although I wasn't too thrilled about some c3 lines either. All right. Chess Higher Cat. Still don't get the reference after all these years. I will never watch Alice in Wonderland, so I will never get the reference. Saying, in the London, the line you recommended in your opening series with CD ED knight h4 has slowly seemed to go out of fashion. Are there any concrete reasons for this? And where should black go looking in that case? Is that what we call a leading question, Chess Higher Cat? I'm not sure. I haven't followed the over-the-board action so closely, so I'm not sure if it has gone out of fashion. Don't people still do it? I think people still do it. Let's put it on the board. There was one thing that bothered me a little bit. How do we get here? Let's say knight f6, bishop f4, d5, e3, c5. I should mention that on the highest level, if you're looking for an alternative, I've mentioned this before, e6 followed by bishop d6, short castles, and b6 is currently the most trendy way to handle these positions. But the line we're talking about is this: knight d2, e6, knight gf3, and here cd, ed, knight h5, which of course looks a little silly, but I thought it made quite some sense, and I still think it does. So there's one line I was a bit worried about, which I haven't researched deeply enough to give an ultimate verdict, but I do believe that I got a little scared here in these lines after knight e5. If I remember correctly, in my video series I gave g6. And after g4, knight g7, h4, I gave some h5, maybe, I can't quite recall. But this looked a little worrying, and at some point I let an engine run here for eternities, and I think it gave white an edge in some of this craziness. So this scared me a bit, and it could be that it's a reason that some black players are no longer going for this. After g6 there was also this knight d3 move, trying to go bishop e2. But I had this thought, even though it looks very dumb, how dumb is it really to go knight back to f6 here? And to answer my own thought, maybe not that dumb. The knight is under attack. After knight f3, we can continue challenging this, and white won't maintain his outpost. And Lila seemed quite happy about this. So the natural move to my mind was f4. But then you go queen to b6, take this pawn, and also threaten knight e5, fe, bishop e5, which white can easily parry by queen b3. So it's not like it's winning material. And here, my boy Lila, or my girl Lila, the engine Lila, gave the move. Knight to g8, which I enjoyed aesthetically. Also makes a lot of sense. I want to go knight e7, f6, push this knight back. It seemed to me like black was fine. So this is my recent clicking in the area. I'm not claiming completeness. Bishop b5 short castles, I believe, is considered to be fine as well. But I saw nothing that bothered me all that much. Aronian played some bishop d3, I believe. But then just knight f4. How bad can this be? Castles f6, get the pieces out. So no, I think the line is still alive and kicking. If you're looking for an alternative, as mentioned, at top levels recently, they start playing e6, bishop d6, which is also helps in that it can be used against all the move orders. If white goes for this, you don't have to worry about anything. If white wants to go for this, you don't have to worry about that, because you're just playing e6, bishop d6, no matter what. So if you want an alternative, that would probably be the one to look into. That's the trendy one. e6, bishop d6, castles, b6, c5, then bishop a6 or bishop b7, depending on circumstances. Can be played without much knowledge, but I still stand by this. Knight c6, knight d2, e6, knight f3, cd, ed, knight h5 line. I think it is still viable after all these years. No, not after all these years. And yeah, don't think we have to quit on it just yet. All right, let me do one more question and then quit on today's show. What do we have? We have Crispy Ambulance. He's saying, hi Jan, slowly going through your chessable 1 e5 repertoire, but I need some isolation consolation to keep me on tracking to the end. It is a big repertoire. Anything new to report that I need to know about, or glitches that need fixing? I remember in one of your broadcasts you mentioned that there was one line where it blundered a pawn. I don't recall that. I do not think so. I might have been joking because I'm sacrificing a pawn pretty much in every line. Not in every line, but in tons of lines. In the martial, in the Italian two knights and so on and so forth. But I do not think that there are any blunders. Also, I checked all the stuff pretty deeply for my standards with Lila and Stockfish. So pawn blunders probably shouldn't be there. Enjoy your toilet roll and pasta, or do they hoard Wurst and beer in Hamburg? Thanks. Wondering what they hoard in Hamburg. But no, goes to show how late I am with this. This was when people were still hoarding toilet rolls. No longer. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of groceries and stuff delivered for a while because I'm lazy. But yeah. No particular hoarding happening. Alright, what can I report about my holes in my glitches in my chessable e4, e5 series? I'm honestly not aware of any real glitches. There is a spot or two I should update based on recent action, like my memory is gonna let me down. I haven't looked this up, but Ding did something, no? No, Grishuk did something against Ding. Was it that? Some knight bd2, queen d7. I can't even remember. a4 here. Was it this line? Anyway, I think I covered it, and what I gave was kind of correct, giving this as equal, but obviously since it's been played in the candidates, I should, or I could, visit that. But frankly, the question or the omission I get the most quote at me, which annoys me kind of greatly, is that in the King's Gambit, you forgot to cover the line knight f3, knight f6, e5, knight h5, queen to e2. This is recommended by all the experts. And now, just to make my life even more miserable, Carlsen also played it against Ding. The reason that I get annoyed about it is that in my world, 2f4 is so nonsensical. I don't want to talk anybody out of it. If you want to play it, enjoy it. Also study some of the games of the great masters in the past. Knock yourself out. But the repertoire I did on Chessable was more trying to, give people lines against everything they could be hit with that makes some sense. And with black, you're usually trying to equalize. So here after f4, go ef4, and then watch the engine bar, and the job should be done. So I always think, oh, come on, don't ask me about another weird move in all this. Then again, it has been given, I think, by quite some sources, and Magnus played it. So queen e2, this is the big hole that I've been made aware of. See how defensive I get about this? King's Gambit just annoys me so much. In my Chessable e4, e5 repertoire. And yeah, long story short, queen e2, I guess the point is you can't go d6 because of takes. So you go bishop e7 instead, then you go castles, and then you go d6, and you're better. But of course, we need to make some moves. d4, short castles. Sometimes I play g4 here with white. Now this would be a problem if there was no en passant on chess. But the good news is, there is. You take it, then you go d6, followed by bishop g4. Or after queen g2, you just go d6. And enjoy life. Magnus played what? Knight c3. I should mention that was in a match against Ding, where he was already qualified, and where he also played e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, h5, which might also be a good move. Anyway, knight c3, d6. I don't think it's too tough to play less position here. You go bishop g4, knight d7, bishop d2, bishop g4, long castle, knight d7. Magnus played queen e1, after which rook e8 looks like a good move, intending to play c5. My computer thinks that knight e4, after which you go g6 once again. You're happy. So, that is the update on the Chessable course. But seriously, I'm sure there are bigger issues with it. I'm not aware of any blunder pawns. So hopefully it's all still holding up. And yeah, thanks to everybody who's watched it and who's provided feedback. I've gotten a lot of good feedback. So thanks a lot for that. And I hope this queen e2 will solve your issues in the King's Gambit as well. And this queen e2, bishop e7, I should say. Oh boy, I'm sure I didn't give some move that's given somewhere. And I'll get the... Well, actually, after knight c3, d6, have you considered queen e4? This is given as interesting in my book. Okay, queen e4 looks bad. I'm sure it's some other move. Keep them coming. The good news is it's not so hard to win these theory debates on the King's Gambit because I have chess engines. Anyway, sorry to end this on an unprovoked King's Gambit rant. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for bringing the questions. Sorry for the very long wait. I hope you will accept all my excuses and the ones that I will be making when the next episode comes out. Until then,